So I've got Gareth's car back from the Dansport rally up in Derbyshire, having spent, I think, 15 hours in the Amazon in a 24-hour period. So we had a night section on Saturday night. That went well. Very tough first section. Fairly straightforward, effectively pre-plotted navigation, but tough to stay on top of it. That was great fun. But we were suffering once again from power loss going uphill. So that was down on the list to try and resolve that, but we didn't resolve it during the event, so we were always struggling a bit with power. Then the second section, what did happen on the second section of the night? I can't remember, but I made some mistake that brought us in very late into the control. But we got all the controls, which many, even good crews, didn't get. Then Sunday's day event, excellent, again, just still cracking navigation. Accurate, very tight, very specific, and really quite taxing to stay on top of it all. The pre-plot was great fun. The plot and bash was great fun. And basically I got all the difficult stuff right at last after having had 2 bad events. However, the simple stuff I got wrong. Regularity 6. Return to that a bit later back at home and show you what I did. However, the gearbox was still not engaging first gear on the roll. You had to be at a dead standstill. So that was 2 gearboxes on the trot that had a first gear synchro problem, which is slightly unexpected. I wouldn't have expected that. I've replaced the gearbox this morning. We now can select first on the roll. I have put in a new fuel pump because on my way home, my 4-hour trip home in Gareth's car, I figured out that the fuel delivery was basically just gravity, that the fuel pump was hardly doing anything. It took me 40 minutes to do about a mile in Chesterfield to go and get fuel, as I kept on having to stop and suck some fuel through the pipe and then put it onto the pump. Then when the tank was full, absolutely fine all the way home. And so to me it seems fairly obvious. Going uphill, obviously gravity's against it, the fuel, to a greater extent than on the level or downhill, and it seems to be borne out because I've just done 2 miles at 6,000 RPM and the power absolutely rock solid where it should be. So a good morning's work. And why have I suddenly dashed onto it? Well, part of it is because my philosophy with our rally cars is, as soon as it's back from one rally, it's got to be ready for the next. Don't leave it. So that's part of it. And part of it is I'm very aware that in 3 weeks' time we're out on the RAC for over 3 days of rallying. And I need to make sure this car is absolutely spot on for Gareth for that. We shall reconvene back at home and I'll show you what silliness I did on the navigation. Fool that I am. See you in a couple of hours. So let's just have a quick look at the navigation from the Dansport then. As a matter of interest, I'm sure possibly you've seen these before from some of my videos. This is a Curter, which is a mechanical calculator. Glorious thing, just beautiful. This allows me to work out at what time I expect to be at certain distances. So this is what I use all the time on the public road sections to make sure that we are at the correct speed at any point along the road. And this is a potty. It's a magnifying glass with an LED lamp in it. And particularly at night or in sort of forestry conditions, I find this hugely helpful when reading the map. Anyway, those are those 2 bits. Here's the Dansport road book, and what it contains is the overall schedule here, then the transport sections. And this shows you how to get from MTC1, which is the main time control 1, i.e. the start of the event, in it goes out, and then north through the maps to get to the start. Oh, up another map, past fuel, and another map to get to the start of the first competitive section up here in the forest, in the plantation. And you can see we're getting into very much the wilds of Derbyshire here. This is very traditional road rally country, night rallying. So that's that. And that took an hour to get up to here. So when we pulled out of that MTC1, we were handed both Regularity 1, i.e. this competitive section to plot, and we also had, in the back of this road book, Regularity 6 to plot as well. So I duly started plotting Regularity 1 onto the map. So this says the start grid reference, the end of the section reference, and then it says coloured roads only, except for longest way rounds. That's triangles where there's a bit of an island to drive around, longest way round. And you have to exit each grid square in sequence. So you exit north, east, north, south, and so on. And you can plot it all. And down the bottom here are the speeds that you're supposed to be doing. So 30 miles an hour throughout. And that's the maximum we're legally permitted to do. It's an average of 30 is the maximum speed we're permitted. So I'd plotted Regularity 1 quite happily. Probably within, that took me probably about 12 or 15 minutes whilst we went up the transport section. Of course, bear in mind, it's just getting dark now, and I'm also having to navigate Gareth to the start of the section at the same time as plotting this on the map. Not particularly difficult, because there were big long stretches of road, so that worked quite nicely. So having done that, I thought, yes, we'll go and do Regularity 6 then, which is in the back of my book. So here is Regularity 6, and as we said, it gives you the start coordinates and the end coordinates, so you know the start and end of section that you're plotting from. And then it says all roads, so rather than coloured roads only, as we saw earlier, let's just have a quick look. Let's look at this map here. So coloured roads, you have this green trunk route, you have yellows which are tarmacked, you have browns or orange which are tarmacked. And if we look at this one here, we see a white going across there. Now, I actually know this white, it's quite a rough section of track. So this isn't maintained anymore. It might have been a surfaced track at some point, road, but now it is no longer, and it actually has a lot of grass growing up the middle of it and quite rough. So that means all roads means including whites such as this. As a matter of interest, that just brings me on to the topic of this pen, which is wonderful. As one's eyesight deteriorates, using a pencil on your maps becomes harder and harder, to my mind. Emma's found me these pens which have nice colours. Blue, which is a colour that doesn't really exist on OS maps otherwise, so it's very clear when you use a blue pen, but erasable. Look at that, isn't that fantastic? Maybe you won't understand why that's fantastic. To me, that's fabulous. So, getting back to the point, Regularity 6. So what we've been given is just 4 diagrams of some locations between these two coordinates. And the first one, fine, you come up a yellow and you hit a T-junction and turn right. Okay, so you plot that on your map and you go from the start and you find the shortest route that uses any white or coloured road to get to there. Easy. You then plot 2 and you've got to get from this junction here up to this, which is a miss left and then a fork right. So it's almost a crossroads, but not quite. You miss left and then fork right. Fine. So you plot from there to there. Third junction, Greater Longston, and we're obviously coming from either up this road here, or we're coming down this one here to come into this junction here. So simply again, plot from this location to this location. Now here's the one that I got wrong. Once again, you see our location is Little Longstone, the Monsell Head Hotel, and clearly this red track, they're wanting to come from the south and depart out to the northwest. Well, in the dark and in the car whilst I was navigating, somehow I decided to completely ignore this bottom tail here and route myself in from this direction. So that was my error, and I never checked it. So I had obviously the whole night to check it, because we got back, we finished the night section at about 10 o'clock, and then went, having had some rather good food and a pint of beer, we then went back to the hotel, which is an hour away, and I could have plotted it then, checked it again, and I would have spotted that, and I didn't. That basically cost us 2 controls. So we regard missing a control of any description as a fail. You can't recover from that, really. You can maybe claw yourself up a little bit, but a fail on a rally means you're out of contention. And indeed, we actually picked up 2 fails for that one mistake, 2 missed controls, which is a total of 8 minutes. And so our final result was 30th overall. Without those 2 control errors, we would have come in at 20th, and bearing in mind that we were nursing a car that was giving every indication that its engine might not run for the entire rally. So we were nursing the car quite a lot. So 20th would have been respectable. I would have been pleased with that. However, that one mistake cost me dear. But the good news is, at least I have a reason. I know why it happened, and I can hopefully address that and make sure it doesn't happen again. Whereas the last 2 events, I seemed to be doing well, but I was just making mistakes, and I couldn't understand why. So there we go. That is the event. What else?
Can you show us some of the other types of navigation you had, Rob?
Yeah, let's go into that. Okay, so we've looked at Regularity 1, which is exiting grid squares. These are, by the way, these 4 squares here are 1 kilometre square. So that is our standard grid on the UK maps. 1 kilometre by 1 kilometre. And that's what these are referring to here. So if we look at this one, what it's saying is, from the previous instruction would be departing from the west, so you come in here, and then departing this grid square to the east. At this point, you don't know whether you're taking that one or that one. You've got a choice. So that's how this one's working. And you'll see 2 longest way round triangles have been noted down. So that's where on the map we have a 3-way junction like so. Longest way round means in reality what it actually looks like is going to be something like there. Something like this. So if in fact we were approaching up here and we were instructed to depart in that direction, then the longest way round, of course, is to turn right, slot left, and then turn right at the T-junction. So it looks like that on the map. In reality, it's like this. Longest way round, if you're approaching from here to here, is to do that. So there you go, that's the longest way rounds. And almost always there's going to be some form of control standing here, so that if you do that, you get a wrong direction, in other words, a fail. Okay, so that's Regularity 1. Regularity 2 was given to us an hour before the start with the road book. So Regularity 2 I was able to plot, and that is, there's Saturday night, Saturday transports, there we go. So there's regularity 2, and these are features on our map. This feature here means a steep downhill gradient. This is a spot height, i.e. it is the altitude of a particular point on the road. This blue 9 is a digit that obviously crosses the route and refers to the grid numbers. A telephone, that was a line and the start of a name. So in other words, the road did something like this. So this feature and this feature are actually on your route. Likewise, the rest of them. So that's just obviously part of the name. In fact, that was something like brownfield. So you passed the NF, crossed the road, and then it did that through the D, and IEL was not on the route. Okay, so there we go. That was, I say, that and regularity 6 that we looked at a minute ago were handed out an hour before the start. This was handed out at the start, so on the route, the 1 hour route up to the beginning of this section, you could plot that. Then regularity 3 was handed out the following morning, and this refers to, again, the colour of the roads. So little Y's are roads like this one here, and can you see that is smaller than this one here? So a capital Y is one of these. So that is a capital Y, and this is a lowercase y. There. So this means junction with 3 little yellows to a junction with a little yellow going onto a big yellow, and you depart on the big. If we go and find a crossroads, there's a crossroads. So that's you're coming in on the little yellow and leaving on the little yellow. So like that. And you're crossing a big one. So like that. That is what that instruction is telling you. Here, brown or orange, whichever way you like to look at it. So this is a brown road. This is a big yellow meeting a brown road. Here's a little yellow meeting a brown road. And obviously you've arrived on the brown and you're departing on the brown. So it's a miss yellow. That's a miss yellow. And so on. And there's our speed instructions. Okay, so regularity 3, that was given to us on the Sunday morning, as was regularity 5. Here we go. Now this one is designed you can plot it to some extent, but for instance here, junction, take the road to Stanton Lees. Well, you can plot that, but actually what it's referring to here is a signpost saying Stanton Lees. Particularly later, there was one that's really obvious.
Turn left opposite.
Here you go, turn left to follow Upper Town Lane. That is the actual name of the lane. So although you can guess that the lane that goes from where you are to Upper Town is probably Upper Town Lane, you actually don't know. So that's what this is, that you have to, oh, here we go, deer sign. There we go, 50 mile an hour sign, 7.5 ton sign. You can't see that on the map. You have to just get to the junction and make a decision. So all this costs you time. And here is the time at which you're supposed to be at various mileages and the speed changes there. So you can see 15 miles an hour. That was obviously a particularly difficult bit. In fact, I think that was a section of white. So a rough track there that was at 15 miles an hour. 28 miles an hour was a major road for a short distance. So that was 28 miles an hour. So there we go. That was that one and that one, handed 1 hour before the start on Sunday morning. Then through the wind, as the standing at the marshal for regularity 4, they count you down, and at 10 seconds this comes through the window, and 10 seconds later you're off. This is called a herringbone. Again, the start and end coordinates. And this is like the route has been done with a piece of string and then drawn taut. So that what this means is miss a left turn. This means miss a right white, miss a right turn. Now, obviously, miss left could just be that, but equally, it could be that. You don't know. So that's why you call it as a miss left. You can't say turn right because it may not be. There, that's not a turn right, but it is a miss left. This is a turn right and it's a miss left. So that's how you do it. This obviously is a crossroads turn right there because you're missing two lefts at one point. And then between here and here is actually a longest way round triangle. This was quite a clever one and would have caught a few people out. So that was what we call a plot and bash. Through the window, you've got 10 seconds to look at it, and then you're active, that you're on the section. And you have to navigate your driver at the same time as plotting, at the same time as managing the speeds. Then, at the lunch halt, we were handed Regularity 7, so we had probably about 20 minutes at the lunch, and then we had some time in the transport section out to the afternoon regularities to plot this. Again, note it's all roads, and it says London map. Well, London map is a technique where you're given coordinates. Now, ignore the blue line. That's my route that I plotted. There we go. Look, if you can see, I can rub it out. There you go. So ignore these blue. That is the route, but I had to plot it. You're given all these coordinates from, in this case, A to L, and they're dotted around the place. And you've got to look very carefully at some of them. It is this one here, C. Now, can you see that C is down a white? There's a triangle here. Okay, so that's your London road book, and so you plot these coordinates onto your map, and then you're ready to go. Then, later, we're given this, all roads, and we've got to visit just these and no others. There's the approach direction, and there'll be a depart direction where appropriate. So, let's just go through this quickly. L, approach from the north-northeast. Well, that is north-northeast, so there's the start. So that means to get to there from the north-northeast by the shortest route, we go slot right, miss right, and there we go. And then we've got to go to H. Now we approach from the east-northeast and depart northwest. That's east-northeast in that direction there. So that means from here to there is clearly down here, and we're departing northwest up there. The next is E. Well, look, let's just skip. Oh, yeah, that's quite a good point. E is over here, and we mustn't go through J. Well, that's fine. We just keep left. So off we go to E, and then to point F, which is up this white here, and that one's a rough old bit. So, yep, so you go up there and making sure you're not going through D or anything else. Then, now we come back to this C with this triangle. C, approach from the north. So hence, we're coming down here and then we turn left onto the white. So it's going to be a bit of grass or muddy track or whatever, but you're making sure you don't miss that and you go down the road. You've got to go down the white first. Then you're doing a hairpin right to come back onto the road and out. So that was quite a clever one. And let's just have a look a bit further on because this was interesting. So you come round here, up to here, to get from here to the end, you go through this hairpin right here, which is a well-known hairpin. It's called an impossible hairpin. In other words, as you approach it, We're approaching here and departing here. You can't just drive around this. It'll be like an 8-point turn. You'd go there, 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 and out. So you either got to spin the back end of the car around, either with the handbrake or with power. Of course, we wouldn't do that on a daytime rally. However, some of us know that just here, there's a car park there. So you actually drive up here, go around there, and then back out. And there you go. That's Regularity 7. And finally, Regularity 8. This again came through the window, so it's effectively a plot and bash. In fact, this you can also do, in fact have to do, just by looking at the road and the signs in front of you. So here, junction, turn to the gliding club. So you're actually looking for a signpost that says gliding club, for instance. So once again, just adding stress onto the navigator. They can't just let the driver progress and do it themselves. The navigator's got to be dedicated to looking out of the car as well, which normally, a lot of rallying, the navigator pretty much never looks up. You're feeling where the bends are, you're feeling when you turn into turns, so you call the road, then you feel the driver braking and turning left when you've said slot left, and very rarely will you ever look up. Here, you've got to. Now let's just go back briefly to that hairpin up here. Now that was actually, I noted that down as impossible hairpin, so I called it to Gareth, something on the lines of 200 metres, impossible hairpin right, but use the car park ahead of you. And to which Gareth's immediate response was, have we had a hairpin that wasn't impossible this weekend? And he's kind of right. I think every single hairpin we had to do a 3-point turn on. There was no hairpin junction that we could actually just turn into. So that was quite hard work. Anyway, there you go. Fantastic rally. It was Martin Pfaff who was clerk of the course of this, and he set what I thought was just a delightful event. The navigation was tough and very precise and not silly. Sometimes you see rallies with some silly navigation, but this definitely wasn't. There you go. That's a full wash up of this rally. Now, as I say, I'm just sorting Gareth's car out, which is looking good, and then I'll be driving that up to Harrogate, which is the start of the RAC, and we'll be rallying for days, ending up in Edinburgh in Scotland, and that is the first weekend in November. And then shortly after that, we've got to turn Amy's car 142 out so she can do Land's End to John O'Groats, which is another 4-day rally. But that one, the crew get very little sleep. It is a tough endurance event, particularly tough on the navigator. Driver can tend to sleep, just shut his eyes or her eyes as and when the opportunity arises. Navigator, much tougher to find some time to sleep. So there we go. Right, that's the Dansport rally in possibly far more detail than you wanted, for which I apologise, but I hope it was interesting.